much Josh today. Perhaps everybody's waiting for lunch. My name is Vineet Malhotra. I am the primetime anchor for News X. But right now, I'm more concerned about what Nirmala Sitharaman is going to be saying tomorrow. And we'll try and get things into perspective. We'll try and get some expectations versus reality kind of a debate going on. I hate to use the term debate because it usually evokes, a picture or an image of a fight, a couple of politicians at each other's throats. But trust me, this conversation is going to be absolutely civil. All right, the budget is going to be announced tomorrow, but in the last year, as all of you would concur, that we've had a few mini budgets as well. The same thing was enunciated by the Prime Minister as well. But it's a very grim reality that we are in fact, a part of right now. There are a lot of sectors which are in doldrums. There are a lot of sectors which have taken up. How many of you had heard of Zoom before COVID came? I had never heard of Zoom. And after COVID-19 hit the scene, Zoom is a household name. It's in fact as popular as Google today. And that is thanks to COVID-19. But the fact of the matter is, there were a lot of brands, there were a lot of companies that folded up as a result of the pandemic. But we are on a path to recovery. We are the originators of the vaccine, an Atmanirbhar vaccine which has been made indigenously. And we are not only curing India, we'll be curing the entire world as well. But first up, let's try and get some expectations from our panelists on the show right now. Let me in fact start with Mr. Malhotra, Vice President Reliance Industries. So, what would be your expectations from Nirmala Sitharaman? Is it going to be about being pragmatic, or is it going to be the projected growth is 11%? First up, do you think that's a plausibility?
Well, we all are looking forward to the budget tomorrow. And as you said that the projected growth in the economic survey has come as 11%. So effectively it's like 7% or 6% minus of last year. So it works out something like 5% on the positive side. Day before yesterday, IMF also has projected the GDP growth of for India as 5.5%. Which probably is the 11% as a whole, but then again with the negativity part taking it off. We are among the best in the world. So China again matches us. Coming to the budget part of India, we all look forward to this budget, but then again as it would be a pragmatic budget. And I think a lot of physical stimulus has already been given in the past few months. In terms of the 20 lakh fiscal stimulus which was given, which honestly effectively did not translate as much into reality as it was expected to. So I would say those gaps which probably could not be done at a time when the stimulus was given may be possible to be sort of made more practical during the budget tomorrow. Fortunately during the first quarter when the pandemic had just started and we were suffering, it was agriculture, forestry and fishery which showed positive growth. So now if the productivity in terms of agriculture etc. part can be increased, probably we can do better. I expect a lot to happen in terms of disposable income coming to people's hand. Something like consumption and demand which needs to be sort of enhanced. That probably should be covered in Madam Nirmala Sitharaman budget, and that is what I look forward to. Thank you.
All right, Sameep, they say that the formula for taking the economy forward is based on 3 principles. Number 1 is demand. Number 2 is demand. And number 3 is demand too.
I completely agree with the thought process of going up, talking about the budget, thinking that 11% growth is going to be there is a positive sign. And as we look into the healthcare and the education sector, which has drastically grown and the digital movement has grown, I personally feel that this is the right moment for India as a country to grow. And as we have introduced our vaccine, as you already mentioned, and we are already supplied 7 million units to Brazil, and we are already talking to Russia, and we are helping our neighboring nations as well. So pharmacy India will be the vaccine capital for the world, and we will be. So healthcare sector is where some place where I think the budget should look into, and we should try and put more focus on R&D in the healthcare sector and improve our infrastructure accordingly. See, it is imperative that, you know, the growth is dependent on digital India now, and the infrastructural need of technology is important. So looking forward for the budget tomorrow, and demand is something which is obviously there in the population that we are in. So all we need to do is cater it in the right fashion. That's all I want to say right now.
Exactly. You in fact hit the nail on the head. Madhuri, let's talk about healthcare. When you talk of the GDP, the provisions for healthcare have always been very minimalistic. And if you talk about infrastructure as well, India still cannot be compared to certain developed countries. You cannot compare it to the hospitals in the European Union. You can't compare it to the hospitals in North America. But at the same time, now that we have come up with a vaccine, how important is going to be healthcare in promulgating, in basically pegging the GDP as well as the economy of the country?
Thank you. First I will track the point which you just said correctly. Demand. Okay, that's the primary thing. Let's think categorically what are the demands are. The first demand, which I call it as essential demands. Healthcare is essential. Next is the requirement. In requirement, we can cater everything. I mean, the food requirements, the residential requirements. So essentially, we need healthcare to be developed more and more. As I'm a civil engineer from construction industry. Now, when we're talking about healthcare development, it's not just a hospital building. It's not limited to that. You have to see what requires further. Building a building is the easiest one when you build a hospital.
Are you hinting towards infrastructure as well? Is that something which is essential?
Infrastructure, of course, is required. As I'm saying, the infrastructure is building. That's not the basic requirement. Building can be created, even if old building can be converted into a hospital building. How you are creating the whole infrastructure to run that healthcare and to reach to each and every people, that's the more important. Now, what is the backbone of a hospital? Of course, we know doctors, nurses and all that. So my point starts from there. First, you think about how many medical colleges are there in India. You need doctors first, nurses first, and then invest into the infrastructure of a hospital. Now, after COVID, of course, construction industry is also in a bad situation. But that we need to think very, I would say, in an intelligent way of doing the construction. I'll just give you an example. There is a company called IUAG in the UK hospitals. You might be knowing about it. India with UK government, there collaborations coming up with lottery numbers of hospitals. The first hospital has already been started in Nagpur and being done by L&T. And such a great construction methodology. They will think about it's a steel building which the hospital can be ready in 9 months. Again, I'm coming back what they did. The whole campus they are starting the hospital first, but we need to look into that the college building has to come first, then the hospital. So that's how the healthcare sector has to be grown up, and requirement in India for healthcare is real need. As actually this is essential. And how it's linked to budget, of course, I'm not an economist, but I don't understand how it's going to be linked to the budget, construction, and the requirement of hospital.
Right, absolutely. I completely agree with you. Mr. Gupta, tomorrow is the budget. The government has come up with a few stimulus packages. I speak to people who run MSMEs all the time. I have a few friends also who have had small businesses, and I said that they've had the small businesses. They had to wrap up because of COVID-19. When Nirmala Sitharaman is going to be reading out that budget tomorrow, what expectations do you have? What do you think the government has been missing so far that can be plugged in the next 6 months or so?
So everybody is expecting a game changer budget this year, and everybody is talking about V-shaped recovery. So the government has to government has few options to generate resources. One popular option is always to hike the tax rates. But in India already tax rates are high. So that should not be, in my opinion, that should not be an option. Instead of that, government should try to broad base or increase the tax base, bringing more people into tax to generate resources. The other option is to monetize the assets, selling public sector undertaking shares to generate resources. The third thing which I would like to emphasize is to attract and encourage foreign capital in various sectors, as all you have also already mentioned. And during the session with Tourism Minister, it was talked about that Planning Commission has already recommended to allocate the increased allocation for tourism. So these are the sectors like you mentioned about education, medical colleges. So medical, pharmacy, pharmaceuticals, health related sectors and education sectors, government should bring more foreign capital which will generate employment and increase demand. So, and especially for MSME sector, the government should do 2-3 things, that the banking requirements and banking operations should become flexible, so that MSME sector or small sector can get funding easily and without any hassle. So actually over a period of time I feel that we have become somehow over compliant country. So we can be 100% compliant, but over compliance on anything may not be good for business. So we have to think that ease of operations, ease of doing business and ease of getting funding should be the priority. One more thing I would like to say on healthcare, because everybody is talking about health. Now the time has come that in fact the world has recognized Indian traditional medicine and herbs. So government should come out with some scheme to encourage startups and companies who are engaged in the production of herb-based products. And we need to give more focus on preventive healthcare, which is very, very important.
Absolutely. Preventive healthcare is perhaps the need of the hour now. You know, in 2014, if I remember correctly, the number of startups that were reported in India was somewhere around 3,000. Today, that number is north of 30,000, and the Prime Minister very recently also announced that there's going to be 1,000 crore rupees given for startups, and that's a fund that can be used as loans and leverage to up the business. In our road to recovery, according to you, Ram, there are a number of challenges that come to the fore. One is unemployment, second is the lack of deep tech, like they say. There's an inequality as well that is spoken of, usually in colloquial terms is referred to as the gap between Bharat and India. What do you think is going to be the pratmikta, the priority of the government going ahead of in this fiscal year?
Well, to answer the inequality, which obviously has been covered in the economic survey yesterday, which I read, is that before actually inequality we've been trying to resolve for last many years. So this economic survey and mostly the budget also would be covering that. More than the inequality, it is a bigger pie of growth which has to come to the economy, which actually when it comes to the economy, it is available for distribution to settle inequality, because to settle inequality beforehand actually puts the growth to a back burner. So probably I would say that growth is more important and then inequality would be settled, and next couple of years should be focused on growth so that we earn more, our GDP goes up. And as a matter of fact, what I say to others also, that this misery of this pandemic has actually created a situation. It's like a restart button globally for each and every country, where India stands to gain for a reason, because if China can take advantage of the population in terms of the economic growth, why can't we? So it's like a restart button, probably we can stand to gain from there.
Very interesting that you bring up China. Sameep, is it about time that we stop comparing ourselves to China in any way? You know, horses for courses, every country has its own history, every country has its own story to tell, but usually we end ourselves up in situations which, you know, in fact compare ourselves to China. Is that something that we need to stop doing?
I think frankly we really need to stop doing that, because we have the capabilities. We have seen the manufacturing sectors moving from China to India, and we are giving better facilities. And we should stop comparing. Like, we should not make China the benchmark. It's just that we need to improve.
Is it like apples and oranges?
It is. Actually, it is, because China. I've been to China a couple of times, and I've seen, you know, their production units and the vast land base that they have, the infrastructure that they have. But India is nowhere lagging. The problem that we are facing still is the one window operation, and what, as Saji said, you know, the ease of operations is difficult. That is where our manufacturing sectors are getting affected. Mostly affected during the COVID time period is the small and medium enterprises and MSME. As you rightly mentioned, 15 to 20% of them had to shut down only because of operation cost and other things. And we should stop comparing ourselves to China. We have the capabilities, as we have proven in terms of vaccine, we can do it with other products as well. It's just the right motivation and the push required from the government. As there was for vaccine, it should be for other products as well. And we will ace through easily, and we will capture global market easily.
Absolutely. And Madhuri, you know, before the pandemic, I was familiar with a term called pent-up anger. But during the pandemic, I also got to know of a phrase called pent-up demand. Is that also something which the government can leverage to create an opportunity for economic growth?
So first thing, it's my own view, maybe not others. Why every time we say government should do this, government should do that? First, we should stop saying that. Government, first you think what we should do. It's my view. Take that conversation again. China. Speak China, Bangladesh, even Pakistan. I believe you should not compare with yourself with anybody else. But there is no harm of thinking what they are doing right and to adopt it. First thing, of course, there will be something which is China doing right since now so many years. So there is no problem to adopt those.
What do you think China has been doing that is right?
Now, the production.
I mean, apart from the fact they infected all of us.
No, of course, I'm not saying to adopt that. But I'm saying, okay, the production. At time, you know, India was, for so many ways, India was depending on...
You know, but Sameep came up with a very good point. I also want you to reflect on that. He said that in terms of language also, India has a better reach to the world when it comes to the language.
Correct. That way it's correct. I'm saying, do not go into that in which we are already having better than anybody else. That's better, make it best. Okay, and where we are lacking, that we need to learn from other countries or other people. Production now in India, if you see the MSME, okay, during this COVID period, they have actually, there are so many MSMEs that's closed down. If you see the ratio, particular item, production to material cost is going very high in India, and the labor cost it's not equally divided. The manpower cost, production means one material cost and manpower cost. These are the two things become a particular product item. So with the material cost, some of the other way for the rules and follow the rules and regulations and not the availability. I don't know what are the reasons. Material costs are always very high and the labor costs are very low. First, we need to think about it, how we increase that workmanship cost. That will even lead to some solution towards an inequality also. That equality problem will to some extent get resolved. That's one, and then productivity. It's very important where India has, the population is the resource. We are actually not using these resources rightly. We are talking about equality, we're talking about so many things, but we are not talking about how we can use that entire populations or the resource to be very productive. If 100% population of India become productive, no one can beat us, that's my belief. You can understand if there are 5 people, only 2 are working and 3 are sitting idle, so you cannot survive.
Absolutely, and I like the optimism. And in fact, I'm going to take a leaf out of what you just said and ask Mr. Gupta a question. Mr. Gupta, Madhuri said a very important thing. He said that instead of looking towards the government, we need to figure out what we can do to make India on a path to economic reform and economic might as well. What could some of those things be?
The key here is that if we are participating in the economic growth of India, then in my opinion, I think startups is the key or answer to growth, because there are very less employment opportunities and there is a limitation how many jobs can be offered by the government or private sector. But we as individuals in our own area of expertise, we can try to do some of our own stuff as a start. And of course, government support will be needed to do that.
Okay, government support will be needed. Ram, what's your assessment of the government support that has come so far?
Yeah, question is, right. Well, the government has been very, very bullish and very optimistic in terms of supporting the cause of the business community as a whole. Only thing is that government's vision gets, I would say, disillusioned because of when they just started to grow in terms of the GST part of it, pandemic happened. So something or the other actually is putting government not making it happen. Coming to this, the kind of disinvestment which has started to happen, government getting out of the government.
Not only GST, but even when the GDP growth was perhaps on the anvil of recovery, the pandemic happened. The GDP was not in fact going really gung-ho when the pandemic hit it, but it was at the periphery of at least coming to terms with what we had 10 years ago.
Right, and we were almost at the restart kind of a situation, but when things went wrong. So hopefully tomorrow probably should be a new beginning, a new era for the country in terms of the budget part of it, and let's hope that it happens that way. And coming to this, that now I would say that anything which we were comparing India and China, and which what she said is correct, that there is that level of social and emotional aspect which is very different in India as compared to China. There is a one China norm. The kind of Kisan Andolan, it can't happen in China. You come up with some kind of improvisation.
It did once, it was called the Tiananmen Square.
We did that.
We all know what happened then.
Yeah. But then again, still, So in India, for a government to implement any kind of innovative thing, there are challenges. And in coming to the government support in terms of
Are you hinting towards the farm laws?
Farm laws is definitely one very important area, And if it extends beyond Feb, when the sowing season starts, then it would affect the GDP, which was gaining, which we
But isn't that a problem now that we are too dependent on agriculture as well for our economy?
I would say that no harm in depending on agriculture, because probably agriculture.
But we need to diversify, right? We need to diversify.
Absolutely, we are diversifying in terms of which we have. The best part which government actually has come up is this. What is this called? Performance production-linked incentive. Now that is something which you just mentioned, that this is what China has been doing. Encourage your Indian industry, the industry. So this is by providing cheaper loans. Like the Prime Minister saying this, that make in India. Now make in India can only happen if your rate of interest goes, because if your rate of interest is highest in the world, you can never actually be matching anything in the world in terms of manufacturing capabilities. So manufacturing sector has to grow, government support is required there. In terms of shipbuilding, when they started, they were unable to do it only for the reason because our rate of interest were high. So we couldn't match in terms of making these big cargo ships and all. So anything to start with actually has a requirement of government support. And at the same time, coming to this part of this, government support actually is required. Even a Gumti wala, if he has to put up a shop in a location in Connaught Place, he has to bribe the police wala to make it happen. So ease of doing business has to improve. So that is at all levels.
Well, that's a very good example, And you did mention ease of doing business at the end. We, in fact, have almost run out of time. So, quick response from Sameep, Madhuri, and then Mr. Gupta as to what their expectations are from the budget tomorrow, and then we wrap up.
So, budget, as I initially said, we should focus on the healthcare, and I think startup is something again which we should look into. As a news, I would like to inform that the BRICS Development Bank had put in flooded around $1 billion just to improve the economic situation in India. So BRICS, as I represent my chamber BRICS, and India is chairing BRICS, I would like to say that we will be talking more about sustainable development companies and a greener economy. And I hope, the carbon credits are not recognized in India, so I personally feel that this is something which the government should take up and provide a greener economy and a better economy, and hoping for the best for the next budget.
Madhuri, 10 crore plus people work for MSMEs in our country. The government has done a lot for them, but yet, if we in fact keep relying on the MSMEs to grow and produce the industrial output, the economical output, we perhaps will hit $1 trillion in a few years. Another $1 trillion, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. But first, I want to answer the previous question. I'm really agreeing with him. The bank interest is, of course, that should be the important. One, it might sound like very silly, but for the middle class or for MSMEs and all that, rather for service classes, our expectation is the government should think on the income tax first. It's really huge. It's for everyone, I think. That's one case.
Well, I'm sure they're watching and listening to you.
Yes, exactly. So that's a prime requirement, honestly speaking. Of course, I'm not talking on the GSTs and all that. All the GST is quite high, real high. But still, okay, I'm not talking on that, but income tax should be revised. And second thing, as I said, MSME, there are other aspects other than government, how they're helping, how they're supporting. This, as I said, even the policeman or MCDs, and so many problems in terms of, I would say, dishonesty, the corruption. Somehow, or to stop that, I do not know what's the reason. Maybe their salary structure,
You're hinting towards reforms.
But it has to be, some of the other it has to be reduced. I do not say that it's possible.
So you're basically hinting towards reforms. There are
Yes.
reforms which are the need of the hour in many sectors.
Yes,
Mr. Gupta,
yes.
last word from you and then we wrap up. Your expectations, and how much should Nirmala Sitharaman be focusing on reforms? Macro reforms, not micro.
So my expectation from the budget is that government should give major incentives to some of these sectors like media, entertainment, education and health sector, and ease of operations should be also on the agenda of the government or finance minister. And on taxation front, I would expect the major exemptions on money to be spent by individuals on healthcare, medical expenses, education and insurance premium on health and preventive care. These should be fully exempted without any limit.
Okay, so judging by what my esteemed panelists have said, that it's not going to be an easy road to recovery, but it's the one which will be replete with challenges. But like we have overcome the challenge of COVID-19, we had the second highest number of cases in the world, but the fastest recovery rate and the highest recovery rate. Now we also have an Atmanirbhar vaccine, which is not only going to be curing India, it's also going to be curing a lot of countries. We're giving that medicine away as grant as well. Thank you guys for being here and discussing a very important topic with us. Thank you so much.